Mobil won 12 hours of Sebring back under green flag conditions, and Scott Pruett wasted no time to get a big jump at the green. But it was that huge incident down in turn 1 between Kevin Estra and Jan Magnussen. Estra in the white Porsche on the right, Magnussen in his Corvette. Big impact with the wall.
He'd like to have that one back, so just focus on getting around that Audi and not losing the lead.
On board with
Can't
Estra.
stop, boom.
You can see that Porsche over in the more damp area of the racetrack. Magnussen on a dry line. And at that point, you're just helpless and you know the impact is coming. Magnussen out of the car, unhappy. Both drivers reported to be out of the car and walking around, which is great news. As we heard Earl Bamber say earlier, you can repair race cars, but you want to make sure that the drivers are okay, and indeed they have walked away, which is always good news. Scott Pruett right there in the 31 for Action Express, but you look behind him, Pippo Durrani, the 22-year-old that was so impressive at the Rolex 24 aboard the number 2 Tequila Patrón ESM. That Ligier Honda, he is moving forward, just got around the 5 of João Barbosa and now has his sights set on Scott Pruett. Take a look.
Coming into turn 10. And even offline, it looks like it's drying up. Obviously, it's dried up because he was able to get down there and still get the car. That was in the hairpin, sorry. Get it stopped.
And has already put several car links between himself and Barbosa. He has his head down and his sights set, as I said, on Scott Pruett. But you heard Felipe Albuquerque say, Scott Pruett certainly still has plenty of speed left in him. He is going to fight hard to stay up front. One of the things Pruett said about running with Action Express, especially after the test here, was how impressed he was with how these cars handled over the bumps. We talk about the challenges of this racetrack. Fast corners, quick transitions, slow corners, power down is imperative out of some of the slower corners, and it seems like Action Express has all of them covered. He was very complimentary and said, I know why we got beaten here last year. I'm glad to be on board one of these. There's a look at the 67. Scott Dixon, the Ford GT, out in front of GT Le Mans. Bruno Spengler running second in the BMW, and Michael Christensen in the 912, the only remaining GTLM Porsche in the field after Estra's shunt in turn 1.
Dixon's built himself up a nice little gap, and we see those prototype challenge cars that get in between, and it looks like that one is definitely holding Spengler up.
Impressive performance by the Ford group here this weekend. We haven't seen the little niggling problems that we saw at the Rolex 24. That's good news for this team, Andrew.
Your program. Now you're a Ford VP, but you're right down here in the middle of it, in the muck and the bullets.
Yeah, I'm getting to have a little fun this weekend, being with the team, and it's been great.
And what are you learning? The car is obviously competitive.
Yeah, the car's been competitive. Yeah, you know, at Daytona we had good pace, but it's been reliability issues, which isn't unexpected to bring a brand new car, brand new program, first race. So we think we got all the issues we suffered at Daytona fixed, and clearly Sebring's a tough track, so 12 hours at Sebring, you could argue it's harder than 24 hours at Daytona, but we think we're in good shape. We're leading right now. We're a little bit off on pit cycle, but we're happy where we're at.
Thanks very much. All very different from doing the production on transit vans, Raj.
Well, it is different than transit vans, but, you know, we're developing the GT, the production car, the race car at the same time. So this is really an example of what we learned on the racetrack. We're going to bring it into the production GT, so it's a lot of fun.
Thanks very much.
And in those long shots, you can see behind the 67, Bruno Spengler in that white number 25 BMW from Team RLL, really trying to hold on. He's got to work his way through the number 20 prototype challenge traffic on either side of him, but Spengler trying to give chase about 3 seconds in arrears.
And this is really frustrating. There's enough time left, so there's no sense getting desperate, but being held up behind that car and watching that Ford, drive off into the distance.
It's going to be frustrating. The 20 Daniel in front in that black and green prototype challenge car, 6 laps down to the leader in class. The 52 right behind him is Gutierrez. He's second in category. He wants past Yount. And then, of course, as you said, you see the lead beginning to slip away from Spengler a little bit as Dixon gets away. So traffic, sometimes it works for you and sometimes it works against you. Michael Christensen hoping it works against Spengler as he's got his own traffic woes to deal with. There he is in that white Porsche, sandwiched between competitors. He's got a GT Daytona car right in front, and right behind him, Tony Vilander in the number 62 488 Ferrari out of Risi Competizione garage. And man, Vilander beginning to put the pressure on the Porsche.
And now it's the time where you start heading onto the wet part of the track.
And this is where that ABS we talked about in the GT Daytona car really makes it difficult for the guys in the GT Le Mans category. It's difficult to challenge in a braking zone.
Look at all those cars on the straightaways. And this is where the intensity starts to ratchet up a little bit. And thinking back to the start of the race, Vilander had it ratcheted up from lap 1. But, this is where, you've got a little over 4 hours left. And with the pace and the track position that becomes important, even this far out, you can't really give up too much space. So here we are with the leader in GT Daytona, Patrick Lindsay, in that Park Place car, having a really nice run. Again, he's got himself a little bit of a cushion also.
Well, and that's why 80,000 fans show up here. This is the battles that you see around this racetrack from one class to the other, looking just back from Patrick Lindsay, that red, white, and blue with the green highlights, that Ferrari, the 458. Gianmaria behind the wheel right now, and he is trying to hold on to the back of the 73 Porsche as it flashes by. And right behind Gianmaria, the 48. You see it, the second car in the shot there, that's Brian Sellers. That's the top 3 in GT Daytona, but hey, let's throw in the top 4 because the 6 from Stevenson is in there. The Audi, this is tight in GT Daytona. Oh, and don't forget the 23 Alex Joe Porsche, Alex Riberas. He's hanging on to that group as well.
Good stuff.
3rd, 4th, and 5th in class right there through that corner. And the thing that's great about it, once again, Lamborghini, Audi, and Porsche, but Scott Pruett still holding on in front in the red and white 31, holding station over Pippo Durrani. But how long will that last? Pruett wants another victory, and Durrani, well, he wants to back up his victory from the Rolex 24. This fight is going to go all the way to the end. Nobody's going to walk away with it. Stay with us. Well, coming up next, it's the high-flying action of Monster Energy Supercross in Detroit as the best riders in the world push the limit to be the first one that makes it to the checkered flag. Coverage begins next on FS2 or watch it live on Fox Sports Go. These guys are crazier than you are, Tommy.
They are something else.
Athletes just like these drivers here at Sebring. Scott Pruett, still the athlete, well into his middle 50s. Like I said, a birthday coming up in just a week or so. And right behind him, 22-year-old Pippo Durrani. It's old school and new school, and they're having a great battle here at Sebring.
Put that in perspective. Scott Pruett had been racing cars for 10 years when Durrani was born, was about to win his 2nd Trans Am title before Durrani's first birthday. And he is just something else. He is a true competitor. And the one thing when I race against Pruett, he rarely ever beats himself. And so even if Durrani catches him here, he's going to make him go offline. He's going to make him earn it. I mean, say this the nicest way possible. He's one of the hardest guys to get around.
Well, and he was 0.3 of a second quicker than Durrani that last lap. Now that's going to change as they're working past some lap traffic right now, and Durrani may close the distance just a little bit, but this is a pretty even match.
Well, the challenge you're going to have here, Durrani's been in this car most of the time it's been running. Obviously, right. Sharp ran that stint, but you had the rain, which allowed him to get some rest and not violate his drive time violation. But Durrani, they're going to have to get him rested up for the end if they want to have him go at it. Whereas that 31 car, they've got arrested Dane Cameron. Eric Curran has not run yet. They want to get him in at some point. So it's going to be interesting to watch how this works out in terms of who's set up well for the end.
Well, and that's just it. This battle is great right now, but we've got other drivers to cycle through. Who knows whether could be a part of it again in the future. Man, Scott Pruett takes it in deep into 17 in a very, very deliberate turn-in.
That's one of the things that's been such an advantage for the 5 car these last several seasons is they don't have to think about who runs at the end. Any one of the guys they're happy with. They might have a preference, say, well, if it works out, we'll get this guy in, but they really don't have a huge bias from one guy to the other. They all run really similar lap speeds.
And Joao Barbosa flashes by in the number 5. We were just talking about them. They won here last year, but the conditions this year so incredibly difficult, not only on the drivers and the engineers, but also think about the manufacturers, especially tire manufacturers. And Continental answered after the rain that we saw at Petit last year with a new rain tire. Let's check into the pit lane with Justin.
Yeah, well, I'm going to put you the most subdued guy in the tire industry, Travis. You are a man, force unto yourself. We're sitting here in the Continental Tire grandstand in the middle of the pit lane where you have this amazing view. We were just talking about you guys have really risen to the occasion when it comes to the wet weather conditions for your tires. Takes a lot of work, though, a lot of investment, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah. The wet tires are, you know, they're a phenomenon. We talked about, when you and I talked at Daytona, we had qualifying in an absolute monsoon there. So we've been working hard, and the tires really come a long way. We brought a brand new wet tire here to this track. It's performing phenomenally. I'm sure everybody saw, you know, when it was really raining, short of when they stopped the race because it was raining so much. When we got back out on the track, you know, we saw very little degradation from our lead over the GTLM cars during the race. You know, we're classically 6-7 seconds faster than the GTLM cars, and we were 5 to 6 seconds faster during the wet stint when it was really raining hard. So we've worked really hard on this tire. You know, ultimately, we've got to bring the same tire for all cars. That's the position that we're in, whereas some of our counterparts can work with their tire a little bit more than we can. So we have to provide the same tire for all makes, all models across the segment. P cars, P2 cars, PC cars, all have to run on the same tire. It's a regulation we're provided from IMSA. We live with it, we develop towards it, and we think we brought a really good tire here. And I think it showed its worth when it was raining really hard.
Finally, out there is around 75 to 80,000 people that have come out here to watch this race. What is the message that you, with Continental Tires, want to put to them by them watching these cars go so well out on track?
Whether it's dry or whether it's wet, Continental Tire builds the best tires. This is where we test them, this is where we prove them, and this is what we do to make a better tire for your car, for the street every day. That's what we're out here doing. We're proving our product, both dry, both wet, and I think today was a testament of what we can do. We raised the level of a wet tire, we brought a new tire here, and it performed fantastic.
Perfect. Did you like that little segue I gave you? By the way, I drive an F-150, just in case you fit tires for that. Like that, guys?
Absolutely.
The consummate salesman, Justin, always is. We saw a problem while he was doing that interview, though. Dominic Farnbacher on board the 24. This car had run very well earlier. Also a problem for the 28, but Farnbacher off in one of the corners. I think it was corner 10, perhaps, and the biggest issue there wasn't the problem for Dominic, even though he lost a little bit of lap time. The problem was for everybody else with the amount of dirt and sand that was brought back up on the racetrack. That sand and that dirt is going to get in people's radiators, and as moist as it is, it'll basically turn to paste, and Durrani gets into the 28. And I will tell you, it'd be interesting to see that again.
It's Josh Webster behind them.
Yeah. One of the things that Bo Barfield, as the race director, said is, you know, there's got to be a lot of respect on the racetrack, and I'm not going to tolerate prototypes being impatient and knocking GT cars off the racetrack. I didn't see that full incident, and if we get a chance to look at it again, maybe we'll get a little better idea of what happened, but you've got to be careful right now.
The way he put it, it's a little bit of a change from the past regime, but what Bo said is, he says if guys are racing hard for position and it's kind of an incidental deal, he says more than often I'm going to let that go. But he says if it's a prototype getting into a slower car, he says I will be pretty quick to pull the lever, and we're hearing now drive through for the 2 for that incident.
Well, and there you have it. He obviously saw it and said no.
I mean, that's late. I mean, he was basically there right as they were getting to the apex of that bend. It's a flat-out bend, but with the wet off line, that the Lambo does not want to just, you know, run wide through there.
Such a challenging area of the racetrack. It's back in turn 14. You're about to get up to the 15 and 16 complex. And you see he just makes the late move. It looks like Webster had already turned in for the corner, at which point in time, you can't disappear. You can't just disappear as a GT driver. You're out there, you can't drive offline in a lot of these areas. Webster had already made the decision to enter the corner, and the move just happened too late.
That could have been a lot worse.
Yeah, it could have been a lot worse. But what it's going to do is set Durrani well back. I'm sure there's a discussion going on down in pit lane right now as to whether they're going to have to serve this penalty, but you know how well that works with football officials after they make a call. See if they argue it or see if he responds. He stays on track.
It's amazing with as hard as this kid drives for 24 hours at Daytona and here that we haven't seen this before. I mean, the kid, I see it twice in one.
And there you go again. There's almost a replay or similar to what we saw with Kevin Estra being down on the damp section of the racetrack, knowing that those GT Daytona cars have anti-lock brakes. You've got to be careful. Right behind right now for Joao Barbosa, his crew needs to be on the radio saying the 2 isn't there. He's going to have to serve a penalty.
And the 2 needs to get on the radio and settle this kid down a little bit and say, listen, hey, we got a penalty. Let's not get another one. Let's not make it worse.
Don't
Can't change that. Let's just take a breath, regroup, and for someone that's that young, 22 years old, you know, he just, like I said, go, 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 go.
Barbosa doesn't want to give up a lot of ground as he works past the 51, second place in GT Daytona, but he's right behind Durrani. And like I said, there's a lot of the dirt that was brought back on the racetrack by Farnbacher in the 24. His crew's got to just say, don't do anything rash. That car is going to have to serve a penalty. And for Barbosa, he's got about 11 seconds in hand over Ryan Dial, who is his nearest competitor behind him. He doesn't want to lose a lot of time, but you can't risk it for somebody who's going to have to serve a penalty. Just behind Gianmaria, he got a flash of the 48, beginning to close down on the 51. That's a fight for the top 3 in GT Daytona. 4 class battles here at the 64th running of the Mobil 1 12 Hours of Sebring. The number 31 Whelen Engineering Corvette leaving pit lane, pitting from the lead. Scott Pruett out, Eric Curran in here at Sebring, and that's going to hand the lead over to Joao Barbosa in the number 5. We'll have to wait and see. I don't believe Pippo Durrani has served his penalty yet. A couple of pit stops going on. No, Durrani has stayed on track. Now, being told now that he did just serve his penalty. I know that was a bitter pill to swallow, but you talk about the excitement of a young driver and he gets out there. Still a long way to go in this race. Get it done, get back out, get back in the fight.
And the way the yellows work, there's no guarantee we'll have a yellow between now and the end, but chances are we will. And so you just got to kind of get back in the rhythm again and settle in here. Now you got Eric Curran in that car for the first time, so we're going to watch him settle in, see what kind of pace he can get into. Meanwhile, Barbosa is oh, that's the water out on the curb. 63 Ferrari.
That was Christina Nielsen dropping the wheel there, but what an impressive drive by Scott Pruett, not only to the fans around the racetrack, but I keep going back to Felipe Albuquerque, who was just absolutely entertaining with his comments. Let's check down with Andrew.
Well, you're absolutely fantastic. You're doing it for the over 50s. No, that was unbelievable.
You know, the Whelen car's working great. The Axe Express team does a great job. These cars are really magic around here. I had my family at home. It's so much fun to drive, and we're driving inside, outside. I'm passing anywhere I want. The car just feels really good, hooked up to the track. A little difficult with all this rain, but hopefully it's all passed through, and fans are going to see some good racing now.
I mean, you've gone from a great team in Ganassi, of course, with that Ford V6 turbo engine, but the dynamics of this are a bit different.
It's a lot different, you know. You can never get by turbo lag. No matter what you do, you can never get by the engine braking. And those two things are significant, especially if you're in a rain drying conditions. The car was, normally aspirated car is pretty magic.
Now, my old mate John Watson, a British Grand Prix winner, phoned me yesterday. He's a big wine buff. This is genuine. He wants a case of your latest Cab Sauvignon. He says he'll pay for it. This isn't the first.
Pay for it?
He will pay for it, but he wants you to send some to England for him. So we'll do the business afterwards. But
We'll do the business, and it's exciting because our Syrah is tied for number 3 in the world by Wine Spectator at 93 points. You're going to get some good Cab Sav.
Again, well, you probably want the Syrah then if it's that good. How long can you go on doing this? I mean, you're just still at the top of your game.
Well, as long as nobody's carrying me. If I'm out there running the times, putting in the laps, your drives talk for themselves, and hopefully what I just did over the last 3 stints was something worthwhile. But it's always, the good Lord's blessed me with this incredible career. And as long as I can still keep going as fast as these young kids, I'm going to keep on rolling. Also,
we've got a list about Scott Pruett. Doesn't like racing in the rain. He seems to be doing fine early on.
There's things that you like and things you don't like. And when you race in the rain, it's just kind of sloppy and not great for the fans and, all those things together. So it's not that I don't like it, but just all the way around. And, more than anything else, excited about this program, but also my Lexus program's coming online. A lot of good news coming.
Thanks, Rick.
A lot of good news coming, and battles on the racetrack. You saw the 67 leave pit lane. You also saw the number 2 back on pit lane. They served their penalty, then they had to come back in and do their pit stop. You can't serve a penalty while you do a pit stop. So 2 runs down pit lane for the number 2. Johannes Van Overbeek behind the wheel right now. Barbosa has moved up to the lead. This fight's going to be good, just like Pruett said, all the way to the end.
So basically a trip through pit lane is basically what the gap's going to be back to the number 2 car. And so a yellow erases that right away. And so we'll keep an eye on what that looks like. But they're still very much in the hunt as well.
Also saw Scott Dixon come in and pit from the lead in GT Le Mans. Ryan Briscoe has taken over. That's elevated Bruno Spengler and his BMW to the front. His teammate and wingman John Edwards right behind him in the 100. And man, what a great battle we saw going on between Michael Christensen and Tony Vielander. Ollie Gavin in the Corvette running for 4th, 5th, and 6th in class. And I think all year long, GT Le Mans is going to be intense. That's where the manufacturers come to play in GT racing. They hire the best drivers, the best engineers, they have the best equipment, and they provide some of the best battles on the racetrack.
And what a stint for Scott Dixon. You look at the fast laps of all the other cars that were set on within the first 20-some laps of the race. Fast lap for that Ford, lap 131. Scott Dixon really showing why he is the best of the best. But it's a little bit of a sneak preview of what it's going to look like probably at the end of this race. Those guys running, top 6 cars running within a few seconds of each other. We've got more from that exciting young man that just got out of the 2 car.
Yeah, he looked like a jockey getting off a horse in the Grand National, not out of a race car. You had such a good run there, Pippi, but obviously the drive-through must have just really crushed you.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, it's a pity because, honestly, I felt that I was through already, and when I got the heat, I realized that it was on my rear right. So I still don't understand much why I got the drive-through, but it's 4 hours to go, anything can happen, and I'm gonna give all I have to win this race.
So you've had an amazing month, I'm sure, since Daytona. You won the Rolex, you come here, what a start to the year, but the pace on the track in these conditions, is it still difficult to drive out there?
My last run was really difficult because I got some water on my windscreen, some dirt as well, and I couldn't see anything. It was very, very difficult to drive. I just had the Action Express car in front as a reference, so I could see the line. I couldn't attack because if I did, I wouldn't know my braking zones, I would say. So, it's a long way to go yet. Still 4 hours, and this race is tough, man.
Okay, we'll go and get a break. Calvin, is he even old enough, Tommy, rather, to drink? Yeah, I don't know.
Barely.
He's 22.
22, barely.
5 on pit road now. Joao Barbosa pits from the lead. This is going to tighten things up a little bit. Is going to move the 10 to the front. And then when these guys cycle through these pit stops, it's going to be interesting to see where everybody plays out. We expect the 2 to be a little bit further back. Eric Curran now behind the wheel of the 31, took that over from Scott Pruett. And then the number 10 of Max Angelelli, the last pitted on lap 115, so they'll be due in here before too long. And then we should be back to the 31 And looking through as to where the 90 with Ryan Hunter-Reay, they've recently done their pit stop, so expect to see a battle there between the 90 and the 31. And this is the thing, isn't it? I mean, from an engineering standpoint, where you are on the racetrack right now is all well and good, but you've got 3 hours and 50 minutes left to go. Long ago, you started back timing this race. You went to the checkered flag and said, all right, if we can run 45 minutes, 50 minutes, whatever the number is, you took that off and said, that's where we're going to pit. Here's our window. And then you take another time off and you move yourself back. They've already begun to play that strategy of when and who at the end, correct?
Yeah, and I think where this is going to come into play could hurt the two cars. Durrani, I think, has to be out for at least 2 hours now.
Yep.
Whereas these other cars don't have those same constraints. It was noteworthy to see that Barbosa stayed in the 5, so obviously he's feeling good about his wrist. They have Albuquerque drafted in case they need it, but so that's significant that Barbosa is feeling good as well.
Well, what I find odd about that, though, we just watched Barbosa being passed by a prototype challenge car out of turn 4, so we'll have to check in on that in just a moment, but we saw Scott Dixon put in a great drive behind the wheel of the 67. Let's check in with him.
Yeah, well, it's got terrific stint there.
Yeah, it's obviously it's a new program here, and big thank you to Chip for including me on this, and can't wait actually for Lamar later in the year. But yeah, it's a new program. Ford have done an amazing job. The car looks fantastic. We're still working on balance. I think the team's done a pretty good job with that too. But we're struggling straight line speed a little bit, especially to the BMW and Ferrari and the Chevy. But so far so good. The car's running well. All we got to do is try and get to the end and make sure we make the most of this 12-hour race.
Now, you're the Indy champ. You're racing at St. Petersburg last weekend. Now you've got to switch your brain into a different mode. It's a different map, I think.
Yeah, it's definitely, we actually came from a test at Barber, and, with the Indy car now, it's got so much downforce, and, obviously the cars are very quick, so, getting braking zones and the style and the roll of the car, but it's so much fun. The GTLM class right now is just, the performance of all the drivers is through the roof, so it's a lot of fun. I love coming to, do these endurance races, and it's always fun to come to an IMSA race.
Now, you mentioned Lamar. I've been there 51 times. It's going to be your first. Any preconceptions?
Just super excited. For me, I think with the history of the Ford program, going back to try and repeat what they did in '66 with Chris Amon and Bruce McLaren, 2 Kiwis. So I'm just excited to be part of the program. Everybody, I think this is a big deal for motor racing in general, and just really proud to be driving the Ford car back at Lamar. And I'm going to have to come and sit down with you, I think, have a cup of tea and actually talk about what it's all about.
There's some great experience you'll have, not just the race, it's the whole event. You're going to love it. And we look forward to seeing you there. Thanks for your time.
I can't wait, man. Thank you.
It kind of puts it in perspective when you have a guy who's going to go down. It's literally one of the all-time greats of IndyCar racing, saying how much being part of this kind of a program, a Ford program, being familiar with the history of it from 50 years ago, and really wanting to be a part of it. And secondly, saying that the talent level of driving in GTLM is through the roof. That's we already knew that, but hearing it from a guy that is most qualified to assess that is also pretty noteworthy.
Well, it's always great to see those stars come here into the sports car series. You're right on board with Ryan Hunter-Reay, another IndyCar champion and Indy 500 winner. More to come from the Mobil 1 12 Hours of Sebring. Well, all day long from here at Sebring, you haven't had to wait long for things to change, and they just changed yet again. Another full course caution called as Kyle Marcelli had a problem. There's a look at the rest of today's schedule. Streaming on Fox Sports Go, and then we'll be back live on television at 10 p.m. This will be a standard regular caution, and that will involve a wave by.
Yes.
You had that look on your face.
Well, this is exactly what the 2 car was waiting for. Plenty of time left. Here we are going to see Kyle Marcelli heading into 13, just can't get it stopped, doesn't get his foot off the brakes, wet grass, boom.
And this is interesting. I mean, Kyle and the rest of the team has struggled with this car all day long. Marcelli doing a lot of time in Pirelli World Challenge right now in a sedan with anti-lock brakes. I don't know if that's part of it. I don't know if they've got an issue with the braking system on this car. They weren't locked.
He had stopped the lap before, so getting him up to 10, which is, I think, what was happening before after a yellow or to stop.
And for a driver that has certainly won his share of races and run at the front in a prototype challenge car, albeit several years ago, just not having a good weekend here at Sebring. It's Joao Barbosa up in front, and we said that a lot here 1 year ago. The Action Express number 5 Mustang sampling Corvette won here with Barbosa, Fittipaldi, and Sebastian Bourdais, and this entire team has run up front all weekend long. Right behind him, number 31, his teammate Eric Curran, and they have been very impressive. Marcelli back underway, and that's the unfortunate thing. They called the full course caution, and just about the time they did, he got the engine refired, got it in reverse, and backed it away from the tire wall. But they'll have to go through the process that is the full course caution. That's how the rules work, and that's how the engineers and the teams plan and strategize.
Yeah, and it's based around not disadvantaging the lower classes to do all the wave rounds. You throw the pace car out, and depending on where the leader is. In the old days, the first and second in each class could get split by that overall leader, and it ruins all their races, which is why they do it this way.
Well, and as you said, when you think about Pippo Durrani and that entire Tequila Patrón ESM team, this is exactly what they needed and when they needed it.
Yep, and here they're going to fix the tires from when that Lamborghini got pushed off on the fast stretch.
So it does give you an opportunity, and hopefully they'll get rid of some of the mud that was brought on the racetrack by Dominic Farnbacher over at the exit of turn 10.
You can see, even though we've had it dry for a while, the offline is still not completely dry.
Well, I think the temperatures have cooled enough. There's not a lot of wind, as you can tell that the sky has cleared considerably. As wet as the air is, as much humidity as there is, and the cool temperatures, it's going to take a while for it to get completely dry. But man, what a change of scenery from what we saw earlier today. Much, much better weather, and we hope to have this all the way to the checkered flag. Don't forget, up next, Supercross from Detroit, and we'll be back live with you on TV at 10 o'clock. But we'll have to take a break now and dip away. Go to Fox Sports Go. Join us there. The fans, they didn't go anywhere. We don't want you to either. It's the 64th running of the Mobil 1 12 Hours of Sebring. Welcome, everybody, watching on Fox Sports Go. The weather completely different in Sebring. Glad you joined us for the coverage. We're going to dip away, take a bite of dinner for just a few minutes. And Greg Kramer, Calvin Fish, they'll be with you when we come back and as we get a little bit closer to the green on this restart. Make sure you stay with us.
Welcome back to the 64th annual Mobil 1 12 Hours of Sebring. Just about to complete our 7th caution. That means we are going back to green flag racing here at Sebring International Raceway. Greg Kramer along with Calvin Fish here in the booth. And Cal, it's been an eventful little moment here while we had this caution come out, but we are ready to get back to it. And boy, has this compressed things. The battle is on.
We have got a shootout here this evening. This is going to be fun, Greg.
And heading into my favorite time of the night, dusk in an endurance race. Sky gets glowy, rotors get glowy, and you think we still have hours of racing to go. And there they go, starting to pick up speed. Right on cue is the Chevrolet Corvette pace car into the pit lane, and we are back to green at Sebring. Leading them up to the line is Joao Barbosa, but Ryan Hunter-Reay in the number 90 got a great run, Cal. He just could not get down to the inside, still a bit damp.
Yeah, and Eric Curran really hasn't run any full dry laps here at Sebring today in race conditions, so it's going to maybe take him a little bit to get into the groove. The pressure is on. The 31 car has been quick here today, with Dane Cameron leading early on, and Scott Pruett did an awesome job here with a triple stint.
He did that, no question. What an impressive drive he's put on. And looking back just a little bit, there is the number 2 of Durrani, and right with him is the number 60 of Pla at this point. So that one is on as well. Those two Ligier Hondas have shown tremendous pace in the dry.
Yeah, they really have. They've been really fast, but they're kind of coming a little bit from behind. Van Overbeek now behind the wheel of the number 2 machine. Durrani was certainly very fast, got that penalty. Curran loses it in the brake zone. Lost the rear end there, probably a bit too much rear brake bars, which he may have had dialed in for the damp conditions.
Now he has to just wait, Cal. Oh my.
What you do in the wet conditions, Greg, it's easy to lock up up front, so you dial that brake bars towards the rear, and maybe he didn't adjust it back. Just loops it there on the entry.
Now he gathers it up, but you know, we talk all the time about track position, and it's gone. Here's another look.
Take another look. He's coming up on Joao Barbosa, gets really close and just loses the rear end. That looked just like a brake bias. Tire temps may have been a bit of an issue as well after this caution period. We said he's got to get in the groove. He really hasn't done any full dry laps here today in the race. Certainly over the course of the practice and qualifying he has, but not in race conditions.
And there's so much to be said about rhythm and finding what's going on, just getting into that zone a little bit. And yes, as you pointed out, it's Van Overbeek behind the wheel of the number 2. And Pla made up a couple of spots on that restart and got right up on his 6. And there is a look as we're watching the number 10 at this stage, and they just have been struggling a little bit. Max Engine, big hit on the bump there for the BMW. Thought it might have gone into one of the other cars. Looks like that was clean.
Yeah, BMW's looking really strong here. Scott Dixon said the BMWs are strong. They got a little bit of a balance of performance adjustment since the last round, a bit more boost since Daytona. And the car is really good. We talked earlier in the show about the long wheelbase of that BMW. Really works well here over the bumps and the long duration corners.
Here are the 2 Stevenson Audis that run second and third. Dejan van Molke in the number 9, Robin Liddell in the 6, behind Corey Lewis. And I was watching, too, the 62 Risi Competizione Ferrari of Fisichella being very aggressive in traffic, wanting to stick right with those 2 BMWs, and he's managed to do it, at least at this point, Cal.
Yeah, he's really tight. As you can see them try to thread the needle here with the GTD traffic. There the 2 BMWs go through the hairpin turn. Fisichella right on their tail.
A couple of cars back, Makovecki in the number 9, 12, and 4th, and Gavin in the remaining Corvette, number 4, sitting in 5th. Oh, and a big move down to the inside, bit of brake lockup. That is in the GT Daytona category on the Audi. And Marcus Paltala, did he pull it off? They're still side by side.
Wow, awesome job there. That is just great racing. Paltala had 4 victories back in 2014 when he was teamed with Dane Cameron on the same team, but a different rocket ship underneath him. It was a Z4 back then. Now there's new turbocharged M6.
Boy, and those 2 BMWs trying to find a way by that Audi of Stevenson, and every time they try, he looks to try and make a move to get back around Paltala. Whoops, and Van Overbeek has had an off turn 17.
Yeah, that's that bumpy turn. Oh, this traffic may have been a factor there. Wait and look for a replay, but certainly not the last hour of this race that the 2 car was looking for. The penalty for Durrani, and now Van Overbeek, a quick spin.
Let's see if we can see it again here.
He just loses it by himself on the bumps there. And again, I think a lot of these guys just trying to get tire temps in. We're only a couple of laps after this restart. Conditions are cooling off a little bit here. As Dark is descending.
Sort of maybe similar scenario that to Kern, just doesn't have a lot of laps in yet.
That's possible, and I think the PC car behind him just spun and, you know, saw that, took his eye off the ball a little bit.
Target fixation.
Exactly.
Boy, and I'll tell you, Paltala has gone around both of those Audis now, and that puts him now solidly up into second in GT Daytona, and coming right with him are the 2 GT Le Mans BMWs.
This M6 is really a strong package. Pretty close in terms of the spec between the 2 cars that we're looking at. GTLM, the white livery cars, GTD, the yellow and blue, Turner signature colors.
It's a good point. The GT Le Mans car is basically the GT3 car, just with a lot of work. And Bill Arberlin was telling me, he said that there's so many engineers with that team right now. There's almost one for every one of these extremely trick components, and they're developing writing code on the fly. When they hit something that works, it immediately is given to the GTD team in Turner Motorsport.
Look at this class interaction. We talked about the dynamic of this race. Paltala gets forced wide there. Fisichella flies through. And it looks like Briscoe is now making a move. They've got that 67 car back on the lead lap as Joey Hansen, his first action of the day in the 66.
Yeah, the team worked that to perfection during that caution and got the wave around for the 67 back onto that lead lap. And he's in major hustle mode right behind them. Now Paltala now, then comes the 912 of Makavecki. That is fourth, and he's right in the mix. Meanwhile, there's your leader in GTD, and has been for a good long while. That 16 Change Racing Monster Energy machine, that car's been hooked up.
It really has. They've got a very strong driver pairing for the season, Corey Lewis and Spencer Pumpelly, and this team is doing a brilliant job. The IMSA debut was at the Daytona 24-hour race. Didn't have the smoothest of runs there, even though they showed a lot of pace. More drama for the 85 today.
Oh boy, body work coming off the back of that car at this stage. And that car has been struggling. A lot of these cars have been having a bit of an issue. That's Chris Miller. Oh, did he
Anyone
get some
else
help
was
here?
involved? I think he might have got turned.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did. Got to pick your battles, as we said, in one of the keys to victory.
Yeah, it was, I think, the number 8 of David Hannemeyer Hansen. A very, very good gentleman driver, one of the best possibly. And now at the 4-hour and 8-hour marks in the Tequila Patrón North American Endurance Cup, this is what it is. 4 races. We're just basically halfway through the season when this one is done here at the 4-hour, 8-hour, and at the finish, they get points. And then, of course, they will go to the 6 hours of the Glen and then the Petit Le Mans. Ooh, and a problem here. But here's how it worked in the prototype. The number 5 getting max points at the 4-hour, the team car, the 31 at the 8-hour, and the 85, that is that JDC Miller Motorsport and the Corrado Sport cars in GT Le Mans, the 911 Porsche, the 67 Ford, and a full course caution. This will be caution number 8 here at the Mobil 112 Hours of Sebring. As the caution comes out, we're going to step away. We'll be back with you. Stay put, please. So our 8th caution unfolding here, and boy, I'll tell you, the one group here that might be very happy about that might just be, well, 2 of them, Van Overbeck and, of course, the number 31, Eric Kern, lost all that time. Now they can compress up. The question is, depends on how long we have had a green flag here, because there's a certain point, if it's less than 15 minutes, I think it's called a short yellow. Don't know if that's what's going to play out here. We're waiting for word from race control.
It is a short yellow.
Okay. Which means they don't do wave rounds, they don't do anything like that. You just get behind the pace car, and as soon as the incident's cleared, we go back to green.
Well, you do the initial wave around, but you don't get the secondary one.
Yep.
So if you needed to hit pit lane, this could hurt you. But you're right, Greg, it will certainly help the 2 car out. It will help the 31 of Curran. Question will be, because a lot of that traffic cannot make pit stops, the GT cars potentially between the leader Barbosa and Curran, who knows sits in 5th. He's still going to have to deal with that traffic and fight his way through. But I'm sure with a few more laps under his belt, Eric Curran will be responding to the challenge here in terms of getting into the rhythm of this race. And it's just difficult. He was thrown right in the heat of that battle.
Yeah.
He really hadn't had many laps underneath him. He's chasing down his teammates while Barbosa got him pretty deep to that corner, Greg, and may have felt maybe his teammate wasn't going to roll through the corner before he got there. Maybe used a bit more brake pressure and just lost the rear end.
Yeah, I mean, you saw him suddenly, that gap closed in a big hurry, and then the car snapped around. And I believe it was Jan Halen behind the wheel of the 73 Park Place Motorsports Porsche that had that moment up against the barriers.
Quick update on the number 10. We're seeing some tweets here from the number 10 team, Wayne Taylor Racing. We saw Max Angelelli in the pit lane a short while ago. Some kind of electrical gremlin that they have not got to the bottom of. And maybe that's some of the pace that we've noticed today, Greg, has not been there. They haven't really had that last second of speed that some of the other prototype leaders have had. And maybe that electrical issue has been there throughout the day, and now it's just manifested itself into a bigger issue.
Well, the last couple of years, they've struggled. You remember last year, they chased a braking issue for, what, about 3/4 of the race and got it resolved late. Were able to come back with a pretty good run to a podium at the end. And that number 5 car, you know, the other side of the coin here, last year, if you remember, they ended up winning the race. They had a broken sway bar for much of that. And Sebastian Bourdais did a lot of the driving when that was an issue and just a mega drive. But they just continue to get it done here. And interesting to hear Scott Pruett's comments about just how good those Action Express cars feel on this track.
Well, they're just really good on the bumps, and that just makes your day so much easier. If you're fighting it every time you go through 17 and stuff, that just wears you out. And to have a car that's really balanced and compliant to the bumps, I mean, it's never going to be perfect, but Sebring is an animal, as we said. It's torturous to the cars, to the drivers, and if you've got a comfy car, it certainly makes your day a lot shorter.
Well, and for Joao Barbosa in that car right now, I think that's huge, because if it was a car that wasn't very good in the bumps and it's stepping out all the time, lots of lock and corrections on that arm, I think he's awfully happy. That's a car that just is stuck.
Yeah, just for the people who aren't aware of it, Joao Barbosa broke his wrist between the last round of the championship and this. He was playing on a hoverboard with his kids. Apparently, the dog got involved, and suddenly it turned ugly, and he fell down and broke his wrist. The cast only came off on Monday, and it's his left wrist. So he says when he's going through a left-hand turn, that's when he really feels the problem in terms of when his hand is underneath the steering wheel. It goes in a kind of a weird twisted action. That's when he recognizes he still has a bit of an injury.
Isn't that just how it goes? There's a hoverboard involved, there's a dog involved, there's kids involved, and it's the adult who gets hurt.
At least he didn't say he's playing tennis or something like some of these other boys have said over the years.
Well, this is true. This is true. So it's the number 5 of Barbosa, the number 90 of Ryan Hunter-Reay. That's the Visit Florida Corvette DP. With that moment and all, Johannes van Overbeek still sits third in the number 2. Then it is the 81 of Nicola Manassian, and then 31 Curran at this point. We're just waiting for things to cycle through for the rest of the scoring. In GT Le Mans, it is the 2 BMWs, the 25 of Bill Arbelin, who is the pole sitter, the 100 of Lucas Luhr. In third, the number 62 Risi Competizione Ferrari of Fisichella, the 912 Porsche from Porsche North America, Frederick Makovecki. And in fifth, the number 4 Corvette of Ollie Gavin. In GT Daytona, Lewis Paltala, who is the guy who's just been on the move before that caution came out. Then the 2 Audis from Stevenson of Liddell in the 6th, the number 9 of Von Molk, and then the 22 of Lee Keen for new Sebring Hall of Fame inductee Alex Job Racing. And we look at Prototype Challenge, it's number 54 of Mark Wilkins. And since Mark got on board, I think, they've just been pretty much sitting up there at the top. There's been a lot of churn behind them with lots of activity, but they've been leading it. Gutierrez in the 52 PR1 Matheson car, the 88 of Sean Johnston, the 38 Josh Norman for Performance Tech, and then the 85 Chris Miller in the JDC Miller Motorsports entry. Meanwhile, we've been kind of wondering what might be happening and causing the speed deficit that the number 10 seems to have. Andrew, what have you got? Sounds like he's
having a chat,
trying to get the info, trying to ferret out the info. Our Andrew is.
You talked about Wilkins, he has the lead, but they had a big lead. These yellows have really hurt the 54 car.
Covered, and we felt that we had an advantage on fuel on everybody, and felt fairly good. But we've now developed an electronics problem that we've never had before, and so unfortunately we're going to lap down, but we haven't cured the problem. So we're going to have to take the green and come back inside again and try something else.
No, you're really chasing your tail.
Yeah.
So, normally your car runs so strongly, although you did have a problem here last year and you got over it.
We did. I don't know why. We had the problem last year, but you're right.
A bit of a technical issue there, but so yeah, confirmation that they've definitely got a problem with that car. Didn't quite hear specifically what it was. It sounded like they were talking about being really good on fuel. I don't know if it's a fuel issue in terms of not getting adequate fuel. We'll find out as soon as we get that technical issue resolved here. We'll get that update. And also hoping to be able to get back to green flag here pretty soon.
Tell you what was really surprising, I just noticed we see the 81 car just 10 seconds out of the lead when they crossed the stripe. It being in 4th position on the lead lap.
Having a look here. Now it looks like we have gone back to green. And Ryan Hunter-Reay looking racy right off the drop here as they headed down into turn 1. Barbosa was able to cover it.
I think that surprised everyone, including me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Certainly Barbosa is on it. On the way up to the second spot.
Third car in the screen is the Mazda. That's down a couple of laps, and then Pla, who is down a lap and is doing everything he can to get back on in front right now of Barbosa and get back on that lead lap, then hope for another caution. Meanwhile, Andrew, can you give us another update on the number 10?
Flipped off the stand. I think we had a bit of an incident down here with our cameraman slipped off the stand trying to get to Wayne Taylor, so I think possibly he didn't hear what Wayne was saying, but they've been chasing a problem all day long with the electrical. He just have still not fixed it, and when they go green, the car will have to come in again and have some more work on it. So Wayne Taylor Racing not having a great Sebring, it's not a circuit that seems to really suit them, so I don't think we'll see the Taylor boys in victory circle the way things are going on at the moment.
No, it hasn't been the kindest place to them. Max Angelelli behind the wheel. I think they've certainly gone down a lap. So it's really just a question of a point stay at this stage, looking at the bigger picture and the championship.
You know what, though? I have seen that team, was it Daytona last year, where they had a similar issue where they're having a mapping problem with the car, and they just kept changing the map, bring it in, do the data, work on it, suddenly hit it, and it came back to life. I mean, it can happen.
That's a very good point. If you suddenly figure it out, you keep the car on the lead lap, and suddenly it's a shootout at the end. Who knows? We've also got rain potentially coming our way still before we see the checkered flag here tonight. So there's a lot of curveballs that could come our way.
And no question, we just saw there the lead 3 cars in GT Le Mans, the 2 BMWs and Fisichella. And here is this battle, and it is on in GT Daytona after this caution. That has allowed Marcus Paltala to come right up behind Corey Lewis.
Yeah.
And right behind them comes Liddell.
Oh, look at this. This is tough, trying to get by the 50 car, the prototype machine. Dorsey Schrader behind the wheel. You can see the mechanical grip that these GTD cars have through that tight, twisty stuff.
If you're wondering why that 50 car isn't a little bit quicker compared to the other prototypes, they don't have all the updates on that car that are updated and functioning. They've got access to them, but Dorsey said it's very complex for a small team, and he said there are some components that we just can't literally afford to get working here. So it's a little bit of a different story. Now, though, he opens it up just a little bit, and this is a good scrap. And Lee Keen is flying, Cal. He's moved up now into 4th in that Alex Job WeatherTech Porsche.
Yeah, the Porsches have been really quick here this weekend, and there's certainly been changing of positions depending on everyone's individual pit strategy, but the number 22 car, the WeatherTech machine, is definitely on the move right now, closing in on this lead battle.
That's the number 6 of Liddell, and you can see the technology in that car, the big video screen that essentially serves as a rear view mirror. Coming up behind him is the number 4 Corvette. So that'll be interesting when that car, Gavin, now needs to try and fight his way through a 4-car battle.
Yeah, and this is where it's tough, is where you have to pick your battles, but I tell you what, you get a little bit more antsy whereas the clock is dwindling down here. It's not like we're in the final 30 minutes of this race, but we're just over 3 hours to go. You can't afford for those gaps to be too big between you and the lead.
Like you said, you need to stay in the hunt here and be ready to go at it. A lot of the teams say if we're close at 10 hours, that's when we really go racing. But the interesting thing is, in this day and age, just staying in the hunt requires some awfully quick driving.
Well, particularly in the GTLM class. Yeah. I mean, we saw in qualifying, Greg, I think the whole field was separated by about 0.7 of a second. So it's amazingly intense. And you don't get anything given to you in GTLM these days. Paltala really working the different lines through turn 1, trying to weigh up Corey Lewis. Does he have a weakness that he can pounce on?
And chatting with Will Turner, and he was talking about, he said the biggest issue that they had with the Z4 was they said it just didn't make much front grip. It got real pushy for him. And he said this car, they solved that package.
Yeah, they've done a lot of work on it. The testing and developing of this new M6 GT3 car happened earlier last year over in Europe. I think Dirk Mueller was actually involved with it whilst he was still a BMW factory pilot. He's obviously made the move now to Ford and Chip Ganassi Racing. Oh, problems, one of the BMW GTLM cars.
That looks
is
like
that Oberlin?
I think it is. No, it's the 100.
It's the 100. Lucas Luhr is running in the 2nd spot. Oberlin continues to lead.
And I'll tell you, there's some serious ruts right over there, and I wonder if he might not kind of be hung up.
I think he's moving right now, so I think he's killed the motor. He's trying to get it fired back into life. Remember, Lucas had that brake rotor explode on him going down into turn 1 at Daytona, cost him dearly.
Yep,
now he's got the life back. Don't see too much damage.
Boy, it looks like he may have got away with it. Here we go.
Oh, he got hit.
Yeah.
He got hit by that PC car.
It looks like the number 85 got into him.
He's not going to be happy, let me tell you that. He'll be walking down pit lane having a chat with that driver. That was a late move down to the inside.
It's going to be interesting to see what the call from race control is on that. We saw what happened with Durrani when he got into the GTD car.
Didn't have a real clean angle on it just from the onboard. Tough to say whether Lucas was sort of angling into the corner when the other car was coming.
And as you said, Cal, this is so fierce. We're just getting word from race control, no action. It was a racing incident, but as you said, this field is so difficult. He has now dropped to at least 6th at this stage, and it's tough to make your way back up to that group.
And I think the bigger key is going to be, was there any damage to that car? He got hit in the right-hand side. All you need is to lose half a second of pace because the suspension is tweaked a little bit, and that could be game over in terms of victory here tonight.
Well, and I'll tell you what, whenever Paltala gets close to Corey Lewis, that young man just seems to be able to open it up again. And a good run there. Liddell making a move, coming around the number 63 of Jeff Siegel.
And that Lamborghini, after the display they put on at Daytona, has certainly been pegged back a little bit. They're now having to run a different restrictor, even though the size is a little bit bigger. It's actually a more uniform restrictor, which gives them a little less power. They've also got 40 kilos of weight added since Daytona, but they still lead this class.
And of course, that is not the number 63 of Siegel. That's the 68 GT Le Mans car of Alessandro Pierguidi, who's a few laps down in that battle. And speaking of Lamborghini, let's get a little bit of an update with Andrew.
Lamborghini, Giorgio Sana, the boss of their motorsport division. Giorgio, I mean, you're a man who practices what you preach, because you won the Italian GT Championship in 2011, so you're not just a boss, you're also a racer.
Yes, you can be sure. So I feel the tension, let me say, and the adrenaline that the drivers now has in the cars, but that helped me also to understand the situation during the race with the driver's perspective.
Big deal for Lamborghini to come into this championship here.
We are very proud to be here. It's the debut for us in this important series. It's the first season, the full entire season with customer teams that we are supporting in the right way. We are doing our best to support our teams with our new Huracan GT3. I think we are on the right way.
Oh, it's very impressive. You've got 6 cars racing in this championship. And then, of course, you've got your Lamborghini Super Trofios all around the world. It really is doing a lot of good for Lamborghini as a brand.
Yes, in the last 2 years, we have done a very good job. We are growing up so fast in terms of number of cars with the Huracan Super Trofeo in Asia, Europe, and North America, of course, where we are proud to be here with IMSA WeatherTech Series weekend. And on the GT3, let me say, it's the first year. We have a lot of work to do. We have competitors with much more experience compared to us. But as I explained before, I think we are on the right way and we have the right product.
Yeah, and at the moment, of course, you've got a car right there battling for the lead of the class.
We are battling for the leadership, and I think Change Racing is doing a very good job, as Paul Miller Racing also. Drivers also are doing a very good job today. It's not easy in this condition with dry and wet asphalt that change continuously, so we cross the fingers.
Would you rather be out on the track or sitting here?
I would prefer to stay in the car, believe me, less stress.
I thought that'd be your answer. Thanks very much, Giorgio.
Yeah, you're right.
Ciao.
Bye.
A lot of passion there, no question about it. That Squadra Corsa program. And by the way, Corey Lewis is a member of the Squadra Corsa Young Driver program. So they're very keen on him for the future, and he's showing why.
He's doing a great job. I think getting back to the Lamborghini brand, I mean, I think what the Super Trofeo series and now their introduction with this GT3 car has done for the brand is unbelievable. I mean, it has really proven that they not only build a supercar for the streets, but a supercar on the racetrack as well. Is up to the unbelievable test of endurance that Sebring puts you through, and they're leading their class right now.
And Paul Tilla takes a look. Yeah, that Lamborghini Super Trofeo World Finals weekend was right here at Sebring. All three of those global Super Trofeo series met. The final 2 rounds of each of those championships unfolded on Thursday and Friday, and then Saturday and Sunday was everybody in the pool to determine the World Finals champ. And it was a mega event, huge fun to be a part of, and all the drivers are doing a great job. But this battle is superb right now. Not that we don't have other great battles, but this one is so close. Officially, just under 0.3 of a second. You don't need a timing monitor to see that. Oberlin right now has about a 5+ second lead over Fisichella. Wilkins has a 3.2 second lead over Gutierrez in Prototype Challenge. And up front, Barbosa has opened it up to about 4 seconds over Ryan Hunter-Reay.